So in this segment, we're going to be talking about the EU reaches agreement with the UK on access to IT systems, and there's a bit more to this one. A bit late to it, I think, a few days, but this is one a lot of people have missed. So the EU and the UK have reached an agreement on EU access to UK IT systems governing the movement of goods from Great Britain to Northern Ireland in what is seen as a significant development in the ongoing talks over the Northern Ireland Protocol. So this was part of the protocol. The EU have been asking this for over a year. They've even taken us to court over it. This means they can see goods movements in real time, and anything that they think needs to be checked, they can request to be checked. With this data, they can see what is the likelihood of goods moving from Northern Ireland into Ireland and adjust checks accordingly. But obviously, these are goods moving in the Irish Sea between GB and NI. But anything they think that is at risk, they can get checked and things like that. So a spokesperson for the British Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, told reporters the agreement was, quote, an important step forward, end quote. The EU has long sought live or semi-live data, don't know what semi-live data means, on goods travelling from Britain to Northern Ireland in order to work out whether to carry out checks on arrival. Britain has built a new system to provide the EU with real-time customs data relating to Northern Ireland's safety and security declarations and some transit information to try to ease EU concerns that goods could enter Ireland without paying EU customs. We are pleased that they are starting to use the system now and are broadly working with the UK government to make improvements, said Sunak's spokesperson. Surely it should say working with the EU to make ongoing improvements if this is Sunak's spokesperson. A bit weird, but sure. The UK has messed around with the live data for ages, saying that such a system is impossible, and then offering access to data from goods movements from weeks ago, which is obviously unhelpful. So Sunak doing this is a good step. He looks like he might actually get a final agreement on the protocol, like something like the October proposals. So more tweaks that exist within the deal, which is something Truss and Johnson just refuse to do. So they're not all, not all Tory leaders are the same in a sense. Quote, there is some progress, but there are still significant issues at the heart of the protocol that need addressing, said the spokesperson, referring to the European Court of Justice. The ECJ having jurisdiction won't change, that's an ERG talking point, but I do wonder how annoyed the ERG are over the protocol and what Sunak is doing now. Baker seems to have changed a bit given he's a minister, but the rest of the gang might be as rabid as ever. It is understood the EU is preparing to find more flexible solutions beyond those contained in the proposals published in October 2021, but that feels like so long ago. But only if member states are convinced that the UK will stick to the agreement. So this is more good news. I think with access to live data, less checks are possible. However, given the UK's recent trade deals with countries like Australia and New Zealand, it might be an issue in the future, but this goes to show the EU are still willing to try and get this over the line and try and resolve any issues. While all sides are said to be determined to get a functioning Northern Ireland executive restored by the Good Friday Agreement, there is a widespread uncertainty as to the appetite of the DUP to participate in whatever agreement is reached by the EU and the UK, which does not meet its demands. So even if Sunak does get a further agreement on the protocol, chances are the DUP might not return to Stormont, and at that point I don't know what happens because they're not going to get what they want, which is the effective end of the protocol. Leo Varadkar recently spoke about that, so I will cover that at some point soon. It's just a lot of content to get through. So the UK will also bring forward legislation which could see the construction of border control posts at Northern Ireland ports resume following months of controversy related to the Northern Ireland Protocol, RTE News understands. This shows that the UK is serious, in my opinion, about the protocol, but also given that border infrastructure is meant to be a devolved issue, it shows that Sunak is happy to annoy the DUP because they're not happy about more infrastructure being built for GB to NI goods. I think it was Edwin Poots that stopped the construction of more border control posts as well. The legislation will permit Whitehall officials to expedite completion of infrastructure for agri-food checks at ports, despite the issue being devolved matter, normally handled by the Northern Ireland Civil Service. The problem is there's no direction for the Northern Ireland Civil Service because the executive is not there, and that means Stormont isn't there. So you got this tweet from Jamie Bryson, who's a notorious unionist, not really liked by the audience for good reason. He says, it said, quote, if there are to be border posts, they should be built where they belong between NI and Republic of Ireland. Their existence internally in the UK will be a permanent barrier to peace and stability in Northern Ireland. The ethos that unionism must give, so nationalists must get, is over, end quote, or end tweet, should I say. And that's just, it's kind of ridiculous, his statement. Like I say all the time, there are many countries within the EU that have internal borders. There are many countries around the world that have internal borders that don't face the issues. This is more an identity crisis for the DUP. and the unionists, the rabid unionists, who are happy to be part of the UK but also want special rules for Northern Ireland. So they're happy to be about the club but also not happy at the same time. Trying to build control posts between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland makes no sense. And so this guy is an absolute clown. And we go to Representative Brendan Boyle, who I don't know if any media outlet covers him more than I do at this point, because he's always talking about the protocol, which is, after 6.5 years since the Brexit vote, it's remarkable we still have to say this. Let me again make clear for the slow learners, the US will never accept the infringement upon the Good Friday Agreement. There will never be a hard border in Ireland. So obviously it makes doing more border infrastructure between the two pointless, because it's never going to be enforced. Not in terms of goods anyways, or even in terms of people. It just will never be enforced. You got DUP leader says the UK and EU nowhere near the protocol. So this is big man, what's his name, Donaldson. Plus, the ERG deputy leader, David Jones, he called for an end of the EU law applying in Northern Ireland and back out of unwise agreement, especially as it's causing damage in Northern Ireland and to UK-EU and UK-US relations. The irony is, it's not the protocol that's doing it, it's the unionists that are causing all the drama. I mean, look at the state of this geezer. I mean, they're the ones causing all the problems here. They're the ones refusing to take up their places. At least some of them are refusing to take up their seats in Stormont and causing all this uncertainty and also costing money to people within Northern Ireland. I think the October proposals were a lot of the things that businesses in Northern Ireland wanted, which is easier checks so they can carry on getting goods from GB to NI. And they're in a lot of the agriculture and manufacturing in Northern Ireland are in a good position, because so long as they can source the goods and they have their supply chain sorted out, they can export goods to Great Britain with no checks, export goods to the EU with no checks. They're in a much better position than a lot of businesses within Great Britain. And it goes to show you that the Americans are still keeping their eye on this. Like I said, I might be the only person or one of the main coverers of what Brendan Boyle is saying, but he's very much covered. He knows what's going on here, and the Americans are very concerned by it. It's not just him; it's obviously President Joe Biden and a lot of other US politicians that are concerned about the situation in Northern Ireland, and especially when you've got clowns like Bryson putting out papers, talking all this nonsense. I'm not surprised that the situation in Northern Ireland is getting as dire as it is. And I do wonder if, based on what Leo Varadkar is saying, is that there's no guarantee the DUP will go back to Stormont, even if there's a further agreement on the protocol. That is very, very concerning to me. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, support the channel on Patreon if you can, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.